Busuu is an online language platform that claims to teach you real-world language skills by connecting you with native speakers and boasts full courses from beginner to upper intermediate in any of 15 languages, even offering advanced courses in some of those languages.
I'm already 7th, I'm going to smoke you guys.
5 years ago, I reviewed it and I really liked it.
And talk about why it is the best language learning app.
Back then, it felt like a nice combination of virtually living in the country and being instructed in the building blocks of the language. But 5 years is a long time, especially when you've since learned a lot about what language learning really is.
Like, no, that is not how this works.
Additionally, we've seen the emergence of language and language learning tools that we once would not have dreamt of. But sadly, the most popular language app, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, has only gotten worse.
It's been an hour and a half, and I've only finished those 2.
To see if Busuu has followed suit and become a joke,
Really, that was the lesson?
or moved a step in the right direction, I spent 3 whole days testing Busuu Premium, this time in most of the languages that it offers.
Complete beginner A1 Korean in 65
So,
days.
have the childish, useless games that seem to pass for language learning in some apps infected even the once more mature apps like Busuu? Or is it still worthwhile for a language learner to be looking at Busuu Premium?
I still think it's relatively good at what it does.
In short, can you learn a language with Busuu?
How much of this do you feel like you would need to do?
My name's Lamont, we do language learning stuff on this channel, and if that interests you, maybe subscribe and let's do it. Shiana chicos! First of all, I want to say that this is like my 9th or 10th attempt at making this video because every time I thought I'd wrapped up everything I wanted to say about Busuu, I would think to check something else and need to add to my review. Basically, Busuu, it's good and it's bad. And if they wanted to make just the good parts of it, they could. They could make it all good. But they don't do that. Okay, so on screen you can see the languages that they're offering. That's 2 new languages since my last review 5 years ago. 5 years, 2 languages. Seems a little bit slow, but anyway, the new languages are Korean and Dutch. That now gives it 15 languages overall, including English. And look, it makes sense for me to just dive into the major flaw that I think holds Busuu back. At first, I tested it in German, Russian, and even Korean, and I found that it just moved too slowly through those courses for anyone over the age of 4. So I tried the Dutch course, but this time, since I'd found German too easy, and I already speak Swedish, I scrolled all the way to the bottom of the Dutch A1 section and just had a crack at the A1 certificate test. Now, according to Busuu's program, it should take you around 20 days at something like 15 minutes a day to reach a level where this certificate would be achievable. That's 20 days, 15 minutes a day. So I wondered if it would be possible to compress those 20 days into 0 days and just take the test, because English is a Germanic language, and Swedish...
Just teach us to say, Tjena, Lamont heter jag.
That's an even more Germanic language, so I skipped straight to the Dutch A1 test without doing any lessons. And look, I'll be honest, I was kind of confident. I was like, I think I could pass this, and then I can say, hey, I learned Dutch in 20 minutes, which is an awesome YouTube title. But I did not expect this.
No one expects a VPN shark who can talk.
What? No, I knew you could talk. Did you get bigger?
A little rude of you to ask, but yes. Too many hot dogs at ball games.
Oh, yeah, you've been going to the games so that the people who are in blackout zones can still watch their teams play.
That's right. Plus, I've been to Europe like a million times since we spoke.
Come on, no one can get to another continent that quickly. It took me 24 hours and cost $3,000.
Have you learned nothing?
Probably not really.
Surfshark is VPN. I can transport you across the world in a matter of seconds, so that websites and apps would treat you like you're there.
Okay, so what, they speak to you in the local language then?
Sometimes, yes.
Oh.
A lot of language options on streaming content are blocked because they're like, no one in Australia wants to watch this in Swedish, only weirdos would want that, let's not show it.
It's not just weirdos.
But with me, there is no judgment. You wanna watch it in Swedish? Sure, poa. You wanna listen to an audiobook in Finnish?
No, What makes you think that?
The fact that your audiobook app is in Finnish.
Oh, no. That's just because it's cheaper than the Swedish one, but it still has all the content in Swedish. What?
You're welcome.
Oh, that was you?
So, you're a little slow. But that's okay, because Surfshark is fast. You can put it on your device, connect, and boom, you're somewhere else. And now, hackers and trackers can't see you properly either. And for good measure, it comes with a bunch of extra security features, meaning you get a broader and safer internet experience.
It sounds good, but I'm not sure I'll like it. Can I just try it?
Yes, I have a free 30-day trial.
Awesome. Do I have to do anything particular to get that?
Yes, you'll need to edit this video so that it looks like I'm actually talking. Put the link in the description, the QR code on screen, a bunch of stuff you actually kind of need to get going, Lamont.
Yeah, okay, no, I meant do the people who are watching need to do anything specific to get the 30-day free trial or the really cool discount and all that good stuff?
Well, you should have said that. Come on, man. I thought you did language stuff. Be specific. Other people can just use the QR code up there or the link.
All right, that sounds really easy.
It is. Anyway, I'm off to Sweden.
No way, can I come with you?
No,
Oh.
you're making a video. Get back to work.
So, as I was saying, I did the Dutch A1 exam with literally no study at all, but I still thought that maybe I could pass. But I didn't expect to get 91% on an exam that Busuu wanted you to take after 3 weeks. And okay, I understand that someone who speaks Swedish is going to have an advantage in starting out in Dutch, and I got a bit lucky with some of the 50-50 guesses, but that doesn't matter. I should not even be able to get 70%, let alone 90%, on a test that's designed to be taken after like 5 or 6 hours of study, and I took after 0 hours. My question isn't, why is this test so easy? Rather, why are we supposed to do so many lessons before taking this level of test? If I, or if anyone else, and even someone who only speaks English, took this test after 1 hour of good instruction in Dutch, I think you'd score 100% and you would not have to guess anything. In my opinion, Busuu is taking maybe 5 or even 6 times as long as it needs to teach you the basics in a language like Dutch for the average language learner. So it's a complete waste of time, and I can end the review there, right? Well, not quite. Because where Busuu starts making a little more sense is in these specific courses. See, when you select a language, it doesn't just start you out in that language, it gives you options for different courses within the language. And normally I find these also to be a complete waste of time because you see that there are things like German for business, but it says that the level is A2. I want to know how anyone is doing business in German if they're at an A2 level. Even B2 German would make it tricky to do business in. And because language doesn't exist in these neat little bubbles anyway, I don't believe that a lot of these have any real logic behind them other than to make the student believe that they're learning the things relevant to that niche. Normally, I think that. But some of these courses actually do make sense. For example, these Spanish ones seem decent enough. Okay, complete Latin American Spanish is a bit of a stretch because Latin American Spanish is like 40 dialects of Spanish, but they're basically saying that you can do the entire Spanish courses A1 through to B2 without using European Spanish, which is good. Then there are things like advanced exam preparation, which focuses on things that you're likely to have to read and speak about in exams, and it is quite advanced, but it's nothing that you shouldn't be able to do if you really are at a C1 level. So it's useful if you're actually at B2 and trying to kind of sneak through one of these exams as though you're C1, which I think is what a lot of people are trying to do when they take those exams anyway. In Russian, there's one for the Cyrillic alphabet just by itself, which makes sense when it is indeed just an alphabet and everything you read is going to have to go through that alphabet and it doesn't take very long to learn. So it's good that they have that option. And the same thing exists for both Korean and Arabic. And again, that is how I would prefer to do it if I were learning those languages. In Japanese, there's a course for each of the 3 writing systems. I don't know how exhaustive they are, but it's good that you can focus on whichever one you want to focus on. French is lacking anything useful when it comes to the specific courses, and being so similar to English, I'd say if you really feel that you must use Busuu to learn French, just skip straight to B1. You'll pick it up. The A1 and A2 courses are going to spend probably 30 hours total teaching you what you could probably learn with a few good YouTube videos. And just going off script here for a second, I want to clarify that I'm not being all like, oh, French is so easy, I learned it in 2 days. It's just that they're going to spend a whole lesson that takes like 6 minutes teaching you bonjour. And it's like, you know that already. Okay, you've lived in the world, you know what the French for hello is, and you know tons of other words as well. You don't need to do the A1 and A2 courses in something like this. English has a lot of specific courses, and some of them do look okay, but I doubt that anyone who's watching this video is actually interested in taking any of them anyway. Lastly, I want to talk about Chinese, which has a character course, which puzzled me because it says that the level is A1, and I just thought, yeah, but isn't like the whole language just made of 50,000 characters? I mean, the characters can't all be at A1, but what they mean is that you can start it at A1, and it is quite a long course that takes you through all the characters. And that's why I'm bringing it up last, because it moves us on to a different topic. The Chinese characters course teaches you the most common Chinese characters, as you'd imagine, along with the words that they are used in, and all at a pace that makes sense for someone who is new to Mandarin. But notice how, even though it's a characters course, you still learn about words and their construction, and sentences, and how Chinese people interact, and how they greet each other, etc. What I'm saying is, the characters are not taught in isolation, because that would not make any sense. Instead, they're taught with the context that you need to learn them. So, there's a lot of new information for an English speaker, and they give you time and context to learn it. Good. Where it goes wrong is when they take exactly the same approach for Dutch, German, French, Spanish, etc. In one 5-minute lesson, you learn the isolated phrase je m'appelle or ich heiße, and they're acting like that's exactly the same as learning not only how to say 我叫, but also the characters for those words. You can see the problem with that, right? Nah, and I'm not saying that in French and German, instead of a 5-minute lesson, it should just be a 40-second lesson. I'm saying use the 5 minutes to expose us to more of the language. Give us more context, and we'll learn everything, including the specific thing that you want us to learn, more quickly and more thoroughly.
They're like, success, you got it right. We use gakde to ask a friend informally how they are. Well, isn't that what she asked? But I put false, so I'm not any clearer. In fact, it's like one of those things where the answers made me more confused.
But there are 2 of these additional or sidecar courses that I want to focus on because they had the right idea right here. And whether it's Busuu or anything else, this is the sort of stuff that can make language learning programs and apps worthwhile. And whatever app or anything else that you're looking at, if it doesn't have this sort of stuff, and preferably a lot of it, forget it. For example, in Korean, one of the additional courses is this one where they've made this low-quality animated K-drama of their own, and you learn the vocabulary through that story. And I was sitting there doing it for the sake of this review, and I'm like, guys, this is it. You had it right here. But it's only 20 minutes long in total. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why is the whole course not like this? And I understand animating things, even to a basic level like this, is expensive. But they've gone to the effort of recording multiple short videos of Koreans saying, 안녕하세요, or whatever it is, and no matter how little that cost them, I can guarantee you that it wasn't free to do it, but it does nothing for the learner. I actually put some much earlier footage of me testing Busuu onto my YouTube channel members for them to just see the process of my reviewing it. And one of the channel members made the very astute observation that there is 0 point to having a video when it's one phrase. Like, does that make it more immersive to have a video of someone bowing and saying hello? No, I don't think it does. Any amount of money that they spent on these videos would have been better off being put into the K-drama. You don't even have to do the animation for every part of it, but just having the story is a good start. We Know, which is a less well-known language learning program, it has a lot of these mini stories. Last I checked, they did not have audio on the stories, which I think is a bit of a shame, but Whether it's Duolingo or Wino or Busuu or anything else, I always wonder, why are you spending 10 minutes on videos that are teaching us to say hello when you could spend 30 minutes making our brains immerse in something harder, because we're going to learn more than 5 times as much in those 30 minutes. It's only 3 times as long, but we're going to learn a lot faster and better in that amount of time. Another interesting one that Busuu have is one called Learn Spanish with El País, because it's the best thing they have. And again, it makes me ask, why isn't there a lot more of this? There are videos and articles all in Spanish with questions and closed passages again in Spanish. Busuu, if you're watching, this is it right here. You had it right here. Do more of this. There's nothing wrong with Busuu, and there's certainly nothing wrong with these parts, except that there's not enough of it. It's missing the bank of content that something like Pod 101 or Speakly both have a lot more of. Opportunities to hear more than 5 seconds of the language at a time. I can remember even when I did German in high school, which was not at a high level at all, but even in that, in our final year at least, we would hear passages of about maybe 2 minutes of dialogue in German, and then we would be asked questions about that on the paper that were in German, and we had to answer in German. And we'd get maybe 3 minutes, and then they'd play it again, and then we'd get another 3 minutes, and then they'd play it again, and then we'd get a final 3 minutes. A lot of chances to hear the same thing, but it was immersive in that it was audio in German, questions in German, answering in German. Now, don't get me wrong, I was not ready for that. I failed most of the time, but that's because I never did my work. I hardly ever went to class. I really was not a good student in German. But my point is, we were kids expected to tick a box to say that we'd completed a certain subject, and we were still expected to do harder German back then than I'm seeing in Busuu now. And when I say harder, I don't mean like grammatically or with harder vocabulary. I mean more immersive German. The topics I can see here in the B2 section of Busuu are advanced topics, but as long as you're being served these little morsels of the language all the time, it's just not going to prepare you for real German. Whether it's spoken by someone in Germany or whether it's just a book in German, you're not going to get there doing these 5 and 8 second phrases.
I still don't really see a place to immerse anywhere. I don't see a place to hear more than 3 words in Russian or any other language at a time until I've done tons of these super rudimentary exercises, and that's not really necessary. We need the immersion before. We need to spend actual time doing actual things.
Was machst du in den Ferien?
See, come on. Like, I'm meant to be up to B1 by now. I'm meant to have done, 40, 50 hours of this, and you're still giving me one word of a sentence that's pretty slow, and it's the only word that has an F in it, and I'm supposed to not know that out of 2 potential words? Come on. Basically, there's just like, when they're asking me things, those things are too easy, not because my German or my Russian or my Korean are good, but because they're too easy. It's like one option, and you're asking me to listen for one word out of maybe 4 or maybe 6 if it's in German. It's like, firstly, how can you possibly get that wrong? And secondly, does that really train you for this? For this many words? This that might be too bright for the camera, but like, this is a kid's book, right? You're asking me to complete this whole thing and saying like, yeah, that'll get you ready for this. No, it won't. You need to do more. You need to have more challenging things because they've just got more language in it, right? More challenging doesn't mean throwing curveballs at us and going like, oh, this thing that's like very near, we're going to make you watch out for that. More challenging just means more language, I think. With language learning, more is more. The person who knows 10,000 words in their target language is almost certainly going to be a better overall speaker, a more fluent speaker than the person who knows 2,000 words. And I disagree with anyone who says that they can get through all this and know the kind of 6,000, 7,000 that they'll need to read something like this, and even then I'm not sure that would be enough. Why are we being babied so much? And it's not just Busuu, it's Duolingo. To my knowledge, it's Babbel. The only one that doesn't do it that I'm aware of is Speakly. I think Speakly is the most assimilated with what real language learning is actually like.
Okay, so quick counter-argument time. The counter-argument to my criticism of Busuu and a lot of things, such as Duolingo, is, okay, but you're meant to do immersion on your own. Something like this would work if you did it alongside immersion and online lessons with a teacher. Well, yes, if we're comparing doing cognitive language immersion only, so that is watching and listening to content in the language, and doing nothing else on top of that, with doing that same amount of cognitive language immersion, plus, say, 30 minutes of Busuu a day, then yes, Busuu on top of the cognitive immersion would be better than nothing. Point taken, I guess. But firstly, I see no recommendation from Busuu to be doing that kind of thing. Speakly is the only platform that I've seen, and I'm not saying it's the only one, just the only one I've seen that actually tells you to do things outside of itself, outside of Speakly. And secondly, it would still be significantly better again if you were to take those 30 minutes that you would have spent on Busuu and put them into some kind of deliberate work with the stuff that you're watching and listening to. For example, taking an audiobook that you've been listening to repetitively, I hope, and going through the book, underlining words you don't know, looking them up, something like that. I call this getting your hands dirty, being proactive about your own learning and obsessing over the material that you're working with. Basically, what I'm saying is that for someone who is willing to put in the work to learn the language, I don't think Busuu is appropriate. At least not at the A1 or A2 stages. But then, just like I've said about Duolingo, I also don't think it would work on its own. So then I wonder who it's really for.
And I just think that something like this, it's so broken down and structured and predictable, and the environment is so safe and clean, and there's like true or false, or what did they say here, and they ask you to listen for one word out of 4. It's just too easy, and it's not developing fluency. Yeah, okay, when they send out the 75% off offers, it's like $48 Australian. It is pretty cheap. I just can't really see myself ever using this unless they had a really obscure language that was hard to find anywhere else, but they don't have that.
When I'd finally spent 3 days testing Busuu, I had this to say.
It works for what it's trying to do, and I'll say it again, I just think it's trying to do the wrong thing.
It's trying to have you consciously learn and piece together the language at a rate of maybe 6 or 7 pieces a day. And a language is an entity that, if learned properly, contains thousands of interacting pieces. So many that you will never be able to consciously learn them. And so at this pace, it's not going to take a really, really long time. It's just not going to happen, ever. So do I think Busuu is worth it? Look, if you're not already getting exposure to the language every day through podcasts, videos, books, or whatever, then no, Busuu is not going to teach you the language. It's not the answer you're looking for, but I guess it will teach you more than you already know, because that would be nothing. If you are getting exposure to the language and you've learned to be okay with not understanding things and just listening to things until you understand more, but you want some guidance as well, then maybe. Particularly if you're already at A2, then you can just go straight into the B1 sections of Busuu in most languages, because the beginner stages are horrendously tedious and unnecessary. But maybe if you can actually speak the language a little on your own, then you might appreciate the native speaker feedback feature. The whole thing is nicely laid out. It's very clear what you're doing. It has some nice features and they all work properly, and it can be fun if you skip through to the more challenging sections. So if you're looking to fill out your routine and you're prepared to move through Busuu faster than will feel comfortable, and certainly faster than they recommend, then maybe. But if you're looking for an all-in-one solution to learn a language, no. Get more exposure to the language, learn to understand more words and phrases, get more exposure, use those words and phrases to understand more of what you're exposing your brain to, and then get more exposure, and then understand more, and then learn to understand more, and then start writing, and then start speaking, and then get corrected on that writing and speaking, and then go back and get more exposure, and just keep doing that over and over and over again until you understand everything that you read and listen to, and then write and speak, and then go back and repeat everything I just said again. That is how you learn a language. Lo quiero.
Yes, you need to edit this video.